Hello, welcome to Flower Juice. My name's John McDonald, and today we're going to make an arrangement that I've been wanting to make for a long time. Now, I'm basically based in the UK, so we never make funeral arrangements that go on a stand, but I know in other countries they do, and I think it's something that maybe we could start to do, and it would be quite interesting to do. So I actually have this easel, which isn't ideal, but it's perfect for doing what we're going to do today. So I've taken 2 blocks of wet floral foam in a double tray. I've clearly or securely fastened them in with floral tape, and then I've put it onto the stand. The great thing with this easel is that actually you can clamp it down, which is good. But what's interesting for a funeral item is we're so used to seeing them low down or maybe lying on top, but this is actually something that we can look into, which I think is quite interesting. So we've got our base, it's nice and secure with our tape, and the first thing I'm going to do is just create a bit of a framework with some foliage. So I've got some nice phoenix palm, and I want this to be kind of traditional really, because with a funeral item what you're really wanting to do is give a big show with the materials you have that represents a family or the person that the flowers are for. And in some ways it is a bit of a show. I know that sounds wrong, but you are having the flowers in a big space, so whether it's a crematorium or a church, it tends to be a big area, and the minute you put flowers into a big space and people are sitting further away, then you need to make something big so that people can really see it. So this phoenix palm just works perfectly for creating a really good base for our design straight away. And this also gives us our kind of physical limit that we want to work within. So I've also got some nice aspidistra. Aspidistra I love as a foliage. It really is so useful, and if you do make a mistake and overbuy, it's very forgiving because it lasts. So when I had my own shop and we did a lot of funeral work, it's quite a good idea to work in a simple way. So rather than worrying about having a lot going on, sometimes keeping it simple is best. So like for this, really the palm and the aspidistra is our main foliage. I don't need to think of much else. I do have a little bit of conifer here, so we will put that in as well, just as a little bit of a filler. And I've done the same with the flowers. We're going to use some roses, some carnations, and some delphinium. And we're just going to keep it quite simple, because really what the effect will be from the colour. So we've got beautiful red roses, red Naomi, and then the purple blue delphinium, and that is going to give us a lot of impact. So we can put in a little bit of other things as well, just so it's not too simplified. I think that's good. And I think as well, actually, for using with the red roses, then this is going to work really well if we put in a little bit of eucalyptus. Eucalyptus just gives you that change in colour for your foliage. So we're going to keep that slightly more central. And that's going to lighten up the foliage area in the centre. So today we've used floral foam as a base, but there's lots of alternatives. You could make a construction with twigs, with moss, and use that as a base. The beauty with the foam is that you can then really make things in advance. With other constructions, you're going to have to think about how it's going to last and how best to do it. So don't always go for foam, but think about other options as well. So we're going to start adding our roses, and this is, as I say, Naomi, which is just beautiful. And I'm going to work them really up the centre first. So we're actually getting quite a lot of foliage on our rose. Okay, sometimes the foliage is not so beautiful, but if you buy a good grade of rose, you'll find that the foliage should be quite good as well. They are a wee bit thorny though. I just like to use my thumb to basically rub off the thorns. That's a really good way of doing it. And I'm just staggering this down so that we're not having anything in a line. It's more staggered, which will look more natural. So in some ways, this is really like a cross between a pedestal and a funeral spray. Obviously, it can go on a stand, but it can come off the stand and then go as a funeral piece onto the ground as well. It'll lie flat perfectly. Now I'm going to put in quite a few roses because I always found when people came in and wanted advice about funeral items, I think it's generally better to have one good item, one big item, than have 3 small items. You're going to get a lot more impact from one good floral design. And it also brings not just the flowers together, but the people together, in the sense that they're all represented in the one item, which is better. But sometimes with funerals you can end up with a lot of different funeral items in one place, and it can get a little bit confusing. So now we've got in the majority of our roses, I'm just going to put in a few that are slightly recessed. We don't want this just to look too kind of like unnatural, so bringing in ones that are recessed is just going to give that sense of depth. I think we do need one up here as well. So straight away we've got quite an impact with our flowers. But now I want to add our delphinium. And this is what I mean about the impact. We've kept it quite simple with roses, delphinium, and I do have this dark carnation as well. But we don't need lots and lots of things going on if we make a choice that has really got a lot of impact in itself. So we can start to put in our delphinium. And I didn't really need to buy ones here that were particularly long. You can have a shorter stem and still get a lot of impact. Now, if you want, you can play with how you do things. You could make an element come through at an angle, which would be quite interesting. But what I would prefer for this one is that we use a good amount of flower, and it's really that colour combination that's making it pop. So I set up the base, and as soon as you put it vertically, it starts to drip. So I've got a towel underneath. So with this type of item, you're probably better making it outside, or put something underneath to protect the floor, just to allow the drips. And you can make this the day before then, which will also help allow it to drip. I need to step back and have a real good look. So as I say, in the UK we don't tend to put arrangements on stands, but that doesn't mean that we can't, and that we shouldn't maybe venture into that. I think it's interesting. And for those of you who are watching where this style would be the norm, it'd be interesting to hear your comments. Whether it's something that's less fashionable or more fashionable, or is it something that you think is the ideal type of design to go for? So that's really all our delphinium. And now I just want to put a few of these beautiful carnations. Now, when I first started in floristry, we used to get a carnation that was very similar to this, and we used to call it clove, and it had a very beautiful smell, like clove, the herb or the spice, and it was such a fantastic lasting carnation. It would last and last and last, and of course with the nice perfume, it was just perfect for using. So I think this little change in colour is interesting, just taking that tone back a wee bit, because these are so red. But really that combination of carnation, and rose is quite a traditional choice. But it works. It gives a lot of impact. It's going to last. They're easy to get, and there's so many colour choices you can go for as well. And in some ways, the carnation has been popular. It came out of being popular, and now it's back to being popular, where it definitely belongs. There's some amazing colours you can have, and they're just a good flower. So I'm just having a wee look. Really, you could go on and on. You could put more and more into a design like this. So it depends where you want to how it's priced, and also how full you want it as well. But realistically, this is just an ideal type of design with a funeral in mind. And putting it on the stand immediately allows everyone to see the flowers in all their glory and to really enjoy the colour combination and the impact from them. So I hope you've enjoyed today's design. If you have, click here to subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you for our next video.